The views expressed in this interview are those of the individuals and do not reflect the official policy or position of the U.S. government, the Department of Defense, the U.S. Navy, or the Naval Postgraduate School. Welcome to the Trident Room, brewer of stout conversation, unfiltered and on tap.
Part 1 of a 2-part episode.
Welcome to the Trident Room podcast at the Naval Postgraduate School. We're especially honored to have our guest with us today as he recently served as the guest speaker for our June commencement ceremony here at NPS. We are grateful for his time with our graduating students and his support of our mission here at the Naval Postgraduate School. If you haven't had a chance to watch that ceremony, you can find his remarks on the Naval Postgraduate School YouTube channel. Today, we're pleased to continue the conversation in a more personal setting and explore his perspectives on leadership, talent development, and the future of the Marine Corps. Our guest today is Lieutenant General Bowers, the Deputy Commandant for Manpower and Reserve Affairs. He is a 1990 graduate of Virginia Military Institute, where he earned a degree in history and was commissioned into the United States Marine Corps. Throughout his career, he has served across nearly every Marine Expeditionary Force in every element of the Marine Air Ground Task Force, and in much of the supporting establishment. His assignments have included operational and command roles across the fleet, including service with the 1st Marine Expeditionary Brigade, Marine Corps Recruitment Depot San Diego, 7th Engineer Support Battalion, and Recruiting Station Lansing. He has commanded at multiple levels, including Marine Wing Support Squadron 273, the 6th Marine Corps District, Marine Corps Recruiting Command, and Marine Corps Installations Pacific. He has also held senior institutional and joint assignments, including service on the Joint Staff at the National War College and as president of Marine Corps University and commanding general of Education Command. In his current role, he oversees manpower, personnel, and reserve affairs for the Marine Corps, helping shape how the service recruits, develops, and sustains its force. Sir, thank you for being here.
It's great to be here.
A lot of words in your bio there. I got them all. I think I nailed them all.
You did. 36 years. You get to accumulate a lot. That was great. It's too long, but anyway.
It's impressive.
36 years is a long time. So
absolutely. Before we get going, I have a short story for you. When I ran into you earlier, as I was coming back from the King Hall Auditorium, you were talking with a Marine Corps lieutenant, I believe.
Yes.
And you parted ways, and he was walking along with me, and I was like, he's so nice, right? And he was like, yeah, who is that? It made me laugh. I was like, that's like your boss with a capital B, my friend. It was very endearing because he was like, yeah, he was so nice.
Well, thank you.
Just how you touched, even in that small moment where you're just like, come walk with me for a minute and like, let's chat about the Marine Corps. I don't know what you talked about, but it left a mark and made a memory for him that I think he'll carry with him probably for his career.
Well, I am always interested in any Marine's personal story about how they got into the Marine Corps and how they got to the point they are now. Because, we're all a success story, right? Each Marine is kind of an individual success story. And, when you learn about what brought them here, where they came from, what they did, and how they're here at Monterey Naval Postgraduate School now, to me, it's interesting. It's interesting because you know what they're going to do, right? They're going to go on, they're going to study here, they're going to get a master's, then they're going to go to a high impact billet, and in some cases make profound change for the entire Marine Corps. I don't even think they know that.
I don't think so either.
But that's what they're going to do. And it's just endearing to me to kind of learn those kinds of stories.
Yeah, or even at their level, just seeing the future in their potential.
Yeah. And as a recruiter, someone with 9+ years on recruiting duty, I'm always interested in an individual story, what brought them into the Marine Corps.
In talking about the Marine Corps, what drew you into the Marine Corps originally?
What drew me originally into the Marine Corps is I was a high school student at Princeton High School in New Jersey, and I was on the high school football team. And when we would be practicing, there were these 2 Marines, and they would be working out, running around the track there and doing push-ups and, mountain climbers and star jumps and these olive pants, these tight white T-shirts, and these really shiny black boots. And as we would be out there practicing, all of us on the football team just couldn't help but notice, who are these guys? They look pretty tough. Those are the Marines. Oh, who are the Marines? Oh, they're the baddest. They're the toughest. That looks like a really good unit. So I started to learn some more. I didn't know the difference between officer and enlisted. So what initially drew me in was just kind of the fitness, the mystique that those Marines exuded, that they were really part of something special. They just exuded it.
I've listened to many podcasts in general, and I found one where you were in an interview with another Marine, and you had mentioned the mystique of Marines. So you say that the Marines are probably the most inelastic of the services, that they want to be part of that mystique. When you think back across your career, where did you first see that mystique show up in real people?
Well, I mean, I saw it in high school when the recruiters were there working out on the track.
So those were the recruiters.
Those were the recruiters. They were the recruiters from the local recruiting office.
They did their job.
They did their job. They didn't even talk to me. They were just there setting the example. They were just projecting our Warriors ethos and our core values. And then I moved in the middle of my senior year. So I went to a different high school. So I lost touch with, I didn't know where they were, right? They were gone. I moved from Princeton, New Jersey to New Canaan, Connecticut in my senior year of high school. My parents said, look, we know you want to join the Marines. You got to apply to at least one college. Just apply to one college. My dad's like, Mom and I are good. We'll let you go to the Marines. So I said, well, who's still accepting applications? And I saw that Virginia Military Institute was accepting applications. So I said, okay, I'll apply to VMI. And if I don't get in, I'm joining the Marines. I didn't even know the difference between officer and enlisted, really, So I applied to VMI, and lo and behold, I got in. Well, then where I first saw that Marine mystique was I got in, and I was on the lacrosse team in high school, and we were doing well, and we were competing for the state championships. So we were in the playoffs. Well, then this Marine cadet, Marine option ROTC cadet who was going to VMI, saw that another high school student from New Canaan, Connecticut was interested in coming to VMI and being a Marine. So he reached out to me and he said, hey, are you serious about coming to VMI and being a Marine? I said, yeah, I'm real serious about it. He says, okay, my name is Chip Bierman and I'm a rising first classman, and I'd like to come by to your house and talk to you and your parents about what VMI is all about and, the Marine Option RTC program, and I can answer any questions you may have. And by the way, we have this thing called the Dyke system at VMI where a first classman takes care of a rat and kind of helps them adjust to military life at VMI. As a incoming VMI freshman,
That's called the rat.
That's called a rat. Yeah, and you endure what's called a rat line where, there's all kinds of traditions where you learn the discipline and you got to walk in straight corners. You got to strain your chin in whenever you're in the barracks. But VMI has a system where a first classman will help a rat navigate this. So Chip came over to my house and he sat down with my parents and I at the table. I missed lacrosse practice that night. And, that's where I really saw that mystique, right? A same mystique I'd seen on the high school football fields of Princeton, New Jersey. I saw it again in this VMI cadet. And then when I got to VMI, I saw it in the quality of the VMI cadets who were Marine options and they were pursuing Marine commissions. And it's been like that ever since.
It sounds like this Marine mystique is a thread that's just woven along through many levels and through different people and different experiences and always present.
I think it has always been present from our founding. I'm a historian, and I think the founding of the Corps, the resolution of the Second Continental Congress that creates 2 battalions of Marines. We didn't actually create the 2 battalions. I think we got up to about 331 Marines. They initially wanted them to come from George Washington's Continental Army. Washington was then laying siege to the city of Boston, said, I need every man I've got for the siege of Boston. If you want these Marines, you got to go find them yourself. And they kind of went out and did, right? They went out to the blacksmith shops, the shipyards, and found them. There's an urban legend, I jokingly say.
Oh, I love a good urban legend, so I'm ready.
That Washington's recruiters heard about this, and they heard it, and they said, hey, these Marine recruiters are going out to our old places, and they're putting together their own Marine Corps. And Washington said, don't worry, boys. I've already got all the quality. The only ones left are the ruffians and the brigands. The ruffians and the brigands did okay. Here we are 250 years later, right?
The story writes itself.
But I think it's neat that the country had a Corps of Marines, a unified Corps of Marines, before we ever had a field grade officer.
I did not know that.
Yes, because Samuel Nicholas, who was the owner of Tun Tavern, was a captain at the time. Now, he was commissioned as a captain, but he was not promoted till major until after the expedition down the New Providence. Then he was promoted to major, and then we went on. But, we've always had a mystique about us. I think when the country transitioned to an all-volunteer force in 1973, that mystique was challenged. And fortunately, we had some amazing commandants. We had General Lewis Wilson, who had been a recruiting station commander, who'd been a district commander at the Congressional Medal of Honor from Guam. He earned it on Guam, on Chinita Ridge, became the 26th commandant and put in place our system, our processes and our system for making Marines. And then General Barrow after him, and they've just kind of continued this unbroken string of success that we've had.
Looking back at your early days after VMI, you've talked about getting there from high school, applying to VMI, getting in. In your early days after VMI, what surprised you most about the Marine Corps?
I think the quality of our enlisted Marines, I've always known it was high, right? But when you actually get out there and get your first platoon, first you go through the basic school, then you go through your MOS school, your military occupational specialty school. Then you get out there and you have real Marines. You just see how incredibly capable they are, how smart they are, how fit they are, how tough, how professional the NCOs are, the non-commissioned officers. What a gift, right? To have lieutenants who really don't know any. I mean, they've been through college, they've been through the basic school, they've got their MOS training, but now they're out there and they're in charge. And they're in charge of like 50. I was in charge of 54 Marines for my first platoon. That's a lot. But you have within that 54 Marines, you have a staff non-commissioned officer, and we had non-commissioned officers who were just good. They were professional, they were competent, they were great troop leaders, and they were good. And they taught me in a very direct way, but a way where never challenged my authority, but I really learned. I learned from them.
That's always important as a leader, is to be able to learn from others along the way too.
Yeah.
The next question I have is, it leans towards music. You've talked about being a Social Distortion fan. Do you ever see any parallels between that kind of music, its themes of struggle, identity, resilience, and what you've experienced in the Marine Corps, or are those two very different worlds for you?
Well, I think it's a great question. I actually do see some parallels. I do see some parallels.
I do too. That's why I wanted to chat about it.
I hadn't put that together the way until you asked that question. In fact, when we were driving down here from the airport, I had aid here. Hey, let's crank up the Social D, right? It just gets you in the...
It really does.
There is something to it, right? There is something to the sense of just gritty toughness that Ness writes about in his songs. And I think there's actually more of a following among Social Distortion, especially among senior leaders, than maybe... is acknowledged.
Some people might realize.
Right? And they just got a new album out, by the way, too.
I had no idea.
So, yeah, they just got a new album out. I am getting into it. I still like a lot of their old stuff, obviously, because I started listening to Social Distortion when I was a lieutenant. And me and my surf buddies would crank it up when we were stationed in Hawaii and we were driving out to the surf breaks. And that's actually one of their most popular albums came out. So, yeah, but I think there is something to that gritty resilience, right? You get knocked down, but you get back up and you just keep going.
Right. I don't think many people would immediately combine the two, Marine Corps and a Social Distortion, but I get it. I get why it's such a big part of your life.
Well, Marines are always stationed near the water too, right? And Social Distortion is kind of a Southern California punk band, right? They're early pioneers of punk. Every generation has their music that they like and that they grow up with. And for me and my peers, we've kind of grown up listening to Social D. And gone and seen them in concert a couple of times. I just saw them in concert last summer.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was great with an old TBS buddy. He called me up and he said, "Hey, pal, you got to come out here. Social D's playing in Arkansas."
You went to Arkansas.
I flew to Arkansas and went and saw a Social D concert with one of my TBS buddies. Former Marine Colonel, great leader, great combat warrior, just Matt Cooper. Yeah, it was great. And we were just talking like we were lieutenants then, right? Yeah, we were in there.
I love that.
And taking in a Social D concert, I may go see him again. I may have some of my peers with me.
Let me know.
Yeah.
Or just if they're ever in San Francisco or San Jose, I'll check that off my bucket list.
It is a good concert. I don't know if you're into them, but I'll bet some of your folks here.
I bet when people listen to this, they'll be like,
students,
reinvigorate the Social Distortion fans, especially with the new album coming out. So you've served across multiple domains at multiple levels. what experiences most shaped how you lead today? And I know we've talked a little bit about that going up, but I guess more so the different environments. You've gone into recruiting and major commands, so I know that these leadership approaches can change. Are there any experiences at those different echelons that have shaped you?
Oh boy, yeah. I still continue to learn every day. I guess over time, as a lieutenant, you want to think that your leadership can shape and change every Marine, right? And I certainly did when I was a young second lieutenant and then a first lieutenant. And you want to get that platoon to be the best it can be. You think that this Marine has been in trouble, but doggone it, I'm going to work with them and I'm going to get them across the line. And then you work with them, and you're idealistic, right? You have an idealistic vision of these young Marine. And then time comes on and it's inevitable. Some Marines let you down and some folks get in trouble and some folks you go to bat for. And then you kind of go through, at least for me, this cycle as, you just got to hold these guys accountable. I said, well, okay. But then, you kind of get more senior and then you're in charge of a squadron, and then you have company commanders underneath you. And then I see some of that same attitude in, some of the company commanders maybe. And I said, well, hold on there. This Marine is someone's son or daughter. They have deep roots out there. And then when you're a colonel, you kind of see more of that. Then you see more of it as a 1-star and 2-star, now 3-star. I guess where I am now is I'm kind of back where I started as a second lieutenant. Thank goodness we have those idealistic second lieutenants. Thank goodness we have them. Because that idealism and that commitment to get out there and speak to the better angels of these young men and women of character who volunteered to serve in the Marine Corps and help them achieve their goal, whether it's get an honorable discharge, whether it's get to their next duty station, or whether it's re-enlist, or whether it's apply for the MESEP program, or whatever it is. Thank goodness we have those idealistic second lieutenants who think their leadership can make a difference. Because it does. Because it does. Look, I got 9+ years in recruiting, and our recruiters work extremely hard to attract and inspire anywhere between 35,000 and 40,000 enlisted Marines every year. Every year. We assess between 1,700 and 1,800 officers a year. And the most important leader in those young enlisted Marines' lives is that second lieutenant, are those young officers. And they are smart, they're tough, they're fit, they come out wanting to make a difference. They join the Marine Corps to make a difference. And thank goodness we spend the time to give them the leadership training, to send them all to the basic school, to develop this camaraderie among them, that they really care about their young Marines because they're the most important person in those young Marines' lives, whether they have a good experience in the Marine Corps or not. And when you see a lot of Marines re-enlisting, like we currently do, that they're doing it right. Them and the NCOs are doing it right.
The numbers speak for themselves.
The numbers speak for themselves.
I think it's admirable at these levels with your lieutenants to have that optimism, to have that mentality that you can go out there and change the world, because we need that. The longer we stay in any kind of situation, there's stagnation.
Yeah.
And so coming in and thinking that
Yeah, and they do, right? I mean, I don't know what it is, but when you're around lieutenants, especially our lieutenants, I mean, Marine Corps second lieutenants, you just, it's me, I just feel like, wow, I got to work out to hang out with these guys. Yeah, I just feel like, man, this is a tough outfit to be a part of. These men and women are tough. They are fit. They just exude leadership. And, we got to keep our game up. We got to keep our game up. And much less to be in charge of them, to be in charge or to think you're in charge. Yeah, you really gotta bring your A game every day.
it is impressive.
Go to the basic school and just look at our lieutenants, or go to officer candidate school and see the quality of young men and women that are showing up at Brownfield there at Quantico, or even to an officer selection station out there, one of our 74 OSOs, and go to a pool function. Look at the young men and women who are showing up training to get ready for OCS. It's inspiring. It really is. It is inspiring to see who's coming in to serve as officers in the Marine Corps. And then the same for enlisted Marines too.
What do you think is the most misunderstood aspect about senior military leadership?
Okay, well, I think the most misunderstood aspect of senior military leadership is that we somehow have all the answers to everything. Oh, well, they know how to do it. Surely, no, we don't. We rely on the expertise of our people more and more the more senior you get,
I think that's important. And you should, because the higher up you get,
the less removed you are.
right. And so you have to trust that if you delegate that to someone, that they're just gonna bring it.
You have to be able to listen. You have to be able to determine who is believable, who has credibility, and trust your subordinates and empower them to get the job done.
Is that when you say you have to believe in them, and is that something that came instinctually for you, or did you have to learn that?
I think I've learned it.
Yeah.
I spent plenty of time worrying, and I don't always conceal it well, right? I've spent plenty of time worrying, oh, are we going to make it? But then you go talk to a Marine and say, sir, we got it. So, and then, their confidence kind of buttresses your own confidence. Yeah, we do got this. And then over and over and over, I've seen that it's worked out. And when it works out, you're like, yeah, you got to decentralize. You got to trust your people, give them good direction, make sure you're getting them the resources, and then let them go.
Let them go. I like that.
Reward them when they get the job done for you, too.
Do you reward them only if they get the job done successfully, or either way?
I think teams succeed, but when teams succeed, individuals have great games, right? So someone gets the game ball, right, when a team wins. So I guess the way I look at it is any win is a team win, but for the team to have gotten that win, there's probably a couple of individuals on there who played above themselves or who really came through when the chips are down. So what I like to do is reward them. And my guidance on rewarding Marines is pretty simple. It's 3 words: swift, public, generous.
I've heard that in your last
Yeah.
interview, and I've been repeating that to myself, because there are many instances, not just in rewards or in where it's just, is this swift and is this generous?
Yeah.
And is it public?
Right.
Yeah.
Recognizing someone in front of their peers, in front of the team they accomplished the great tasks with. And a lot of times, Marines, they don't seek it. Marines do not seek recognition. It's just not in our culture, right? We're the few, the proud. We're not individuals. We train as teams, from when we first, enter the recruiter's office, we're taught, hey, we're part of a team. But when you do it, the other teammates recognize who really stepped up, who came through when the chips were down. And I think the teammates appreciate seeing that one team member who came through get recognized.
And it inspires others too, because then they want to be recognized. But I agree. I recognize that in a lot of Marines too, that they want to do the job well, because that's just in their nature. Yeah. It's not about the rewards. So when they do come, it means that much more, because it kind of brings them back to themselves as an individual part of that bigger team, where it's like, oh, I actually did all of these amazing things.
What I like to do too is when you talk about what the Marine did, sometimes connect it to the larger story. I think sometimes that's one thing senior leaders can do and should do is you see how this individual contribution or this contribution by the team here contributed to the larger picture, the success of the larger unit. In some cases, the whole Marine Corps or the whole unit. It's just great.
It is great. What do you think motivates young people to join the Marine Corps today? And I know we've touched on being fit and smart. Do you think that there's anything deeper than just the physical that they see?
Oh, yes. Purpose, right? Young men and women of character can truly live a life of significance in the Marine Corps. You see it now in surveys of young people, right? The most connected generation in history, but lacking purpose. Where do you really find purpose? Why you're here, being part of something bigger than yourself. You see it in these young men and women who want to take up the challenge of becoming a Marine. The decision to join the Marine Corps is not always a rational one or a logical one. They are inspired, right? They are inspired. And I think that's really what our Marine recruiters do so well. They don't go out there and they don't convince anybody. I wasn't convinced to become a Marine. You're inspired to become a Marine because you see an example and you see someone exude our core values, warriors ethos, pride in who they are and what they do, our ethos, right? How we treat and take care of one another. Young people see that and they yearn to be a part of that. And they want to take up that challenge. And they don't want to do it because it's easy. They know how hard it is. In fact, they know it's the longest boot camp. They know it's the toughest. We got the highest standards. There's a wait list now. I mean, I think Marine Corps Recruiting Command now has what they call DEP and holds, in some cases, more than 2,000 recruits, 2,000 young men and women of character a month waiting for their chance to enter the delayed entry program, just to get into the delayed entry program. So they are taking up that challenge.
And that's not even a guarantee to get in because you still have to go through all of the requirements of the delayed entry program.
Yes, you got to pass an initial strength test. You got to show up to pool functions. You got to earn that seat just to get to the yellow footprints at Paris Island or San Diego. And the recruiter and the staff non-commissioned officer in charge get those young men and women of character ready to go. But they do it, yeah.
So how do you view the role of education in preparing leaders for future conflict?
I think education is huge. I think the critical thinking skills, the problem-solving skills, being able to respond to the unexpected, to not get freaked out when you get a surprise. Education gives you all that. Education gives you confidence. Education gives you decision-making skills, especially a place like here, like Naval Postgraduate School, where you see how capable everyone is to your left and right. It's kind of, at least for me, I just left talking to a bunch of Marine students in there and getting their thesis proposed. You're like, wow, we have some really smart people here in the Marine Corps who are ready to get after some really tough problems. I think what it does is it boosts your confidence in the whole organization. So how important is education? Hugely important education. How important is a STEM education, like a graduate STEM education, like you get at Naval Postgraduate School? Enormously so. Enormously so. We have about 250 Marine students here. Every one of them, when they graduate, they're going to a high impact billet. Every one of them. And we design it that way. We competitively screen and select them just in order to get here. They take a challenging course of academic study while they're here. They get a master's. And, we just got briefed on some of the thesis projects that they plan to do. They're all tackling really tough problems, and then they're going to come back and they're going to help us solve those problems and get after them.
That's amazing. Yeah. What skills or ways of thinking should students at NPS be developing right now to stay ahead of future challenges?
I would say read voraciously, cast a wide net, be ready to connect dots across multiple disciplines. Take a multidisciplinary approach to learning. In other words, don't limit yourself to what you're learning here. I mean, you're going to master a specific field. You're going to get a set of skills, right? However, with a multidisciplinary approach, you will be able to apply that across multiple fields and connect dots across disparate fields and create like a lattice work that'll really equip you to deal with the unexpected, to solve really tough problems. Talk to your peers. Learn about what they're studying. If you get the chance to go see another student present their master's thesis, go. Learn about what they've learned. Talk to them about it, drill down, and connect it to what you're working on.
That other student has already done all the research and all the studying, so why not take that opportunity to learn from them and maybe pick up something inspiring yourself?
And you're going to work with these folks again, too, right? Because the Marine Corps is pretty darn small, right? I mean, I said how many officers we bring in a year, right? We're not that big. You're going to work with these people again. So develop good relationships, develop good collaborational skills, good cooperative skills, be good at working in a team, and learn from each other.
Thanks for joining us in the Trident Room. For more information about today's guests and topics, please visit the show notes online at nps.edu/Trident Room Podcast. The Trident Room Podcast has been brought to you by the Naval Postgraduate School Alumni Association and Foundation. For questions, comments, and suggestions, please email us at tridentroompodcasthost@nps.edu.